Part three of it looks like 200 because you can't see. Sorry, but it doesn't talk anything from the Quran. It's just blah blah blah. But it doesn't give me any verses from the Quran. You know, when I said some verses are more important than others in the Quran, I had to give you, sorry, because I forgot to give you a verse. Um, Between me and him, a Quran. You know what I'm saying? So I have to bring a verse from the Quran, or two, or three, or four, whatever I can gather. Otherwise, I'll be here forever. All right. I said there's some more verses, not better like we say, because they say it because they say if you read a certain chapter from the Quran on the Friday, God will forgive you all your things. He'll forgive all your bad deeds and things. They come up with something like that to make people like believe in this. That's why they prefer. They have they differentiate between the verses, not the way I'm saying it, not the way I'm going to explain it to you, not explain it to you, but translate it to you. If you read a certain chapter, you get this and you get this and you get this, and that's what they're telling their followers, isn't it? But it's not from the Quran. The Quran doesn't say if you read this verse on a Friday, I forgive you, because it makes no sense. If you understand the Quran, you would never say things like this. You would never ever, because it makes you look like you don't know what you're talking about. It makes you look like you don't really know the Quran. Because when I said some things are better, not better, more important, some verses are more important than other verses. I've got proof here in my hand, right? You know the Surah Al-Fatiha, right? Every day, the Muslims or the Sunnis say it, or the Muslims in general say it about 6, 7 times, or sometimes 8, depends how many you pray. You see what I'm saying? You say this verse. So every time a Muslim going to pray, right? And then he has to read a verse. This verse he has to repeat it in every salat, right? Every prayer, not salat, every prayer. So it's called the key of the Quran. I mean the first verse of the Quran, which is Al-Fatiha. What we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim. Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim. What it means guide us to your straight path, right? They actually say that every day about 7 times, right? But they don't know what the straight path is, because some of their clerics, they said to them, and I'll bring that hadith, right? I will talk about the hadith. Sirat al-Mustaqim is actually a bridge on top of hell on Judgment Day. We all have to go past it, right? Obviously, the Muslims go through, like the Sunnis go, the Sunnis, especially their sect, the one sect that goes through to them, comparing to them, yeah, according to them, their people and their sect will go past it like a wind, and then everyone else after that, they'll struggle and then they fall down to hell. That is the straight path to them, right? Not to me, because I read from the Quran and I study the Quran. I can bring what that means. I can tell you what the straight path is, not from God's words, right? Let's go to Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 152, right? As I just follow the Quran and I study the Quran and I know how the Quran works. I know the keys of the Quran. They're not hard. So I'll have to read it in context, yeah? In context to understand what it is, all right? So God in chapter 6, verse 152 said, he's telling us here the commandments, right? You shall not touch the orphan's money except in the most righteous manner until they reach maturity. You see, maturity, mature. It becomes mature. This is to give him his money. He has to be mature, right? But this law are saying you can marry a 9-year-old. To them, a 9-year-old is mature, right? Let's go past that. You shall give full weight and full measure when you trade. So you shouldn't steal from people, yeah? Equitably, we do not burden any soul beyond its means. God said we're not going to give you things that beyond anyone's means. No matter strong, weak, whatever. We're not going to put things on you you can't handle. You understand? You shall be absolutely just when you bear witness, even against your relatives, and you shall fulfill your covenant with God. This, you see, are his commandments to you, that you may take heed. See, that's the chapter 1. He just told us that this is the commandments, right? So this is very important for me to know these verses, isn't it? Because that's the Lord's commandments. That's my Maker's commandments, all right? And then what? The verse just after it, number 53. God said, this is my path, a straight one. You shall follow it, and do not follow any other path. These are his commandments to you, that you may be saved. See? God gave me his commandments, and then he told me, this is his straight path. The straight path we ask God every day, 7 times a day, to guide us to. God is guiding you here. He's telling you my commandments, all right? If you follow my commandments, and only my commandments, like he said here, yeah, you are in the straight path. So you guided to the straight path by following the commandments. But this lot don't understand what Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim is. Do you know what I'm saying? They think, they don't do anything. They keep doing the same thing. And then God, we just guide them. Because they Sunnis and Ahlul Jama'ah. But God, clearly he says, this is my path, a straight one. You shall follow it. And do not follow any other paths. Do not follow your clerics. Don't follow any other commandments that God didn't say. You see, that is a clear verse. This is important than other verses like when the stories about Moses or stories. I'm not saying they're not important. You can learn from it because God gave us a lot of examples in there. But this is more important for me because this is the commandments. Or not this is not all of them, but there's a lot of them. So you have to research to find more. That's why the Quran is one, is whole. You can't split it. You understand that? See, I gave you that verse from the Quran that you shouldn't follow any other paths. You follow the straight path of our Maker. Right? So there's no better verses. There's no better. There's more important. Do you understand? So if you don't follow the commandments of Allah, yeah, how are you going to be in a straight path? How are you going to be? How you want to know what God wants from you? You don't, do you? So you have to practice this. That's why I said Islam is not. It's not a beard. It's not a dress. It's not a hijab. It's something you practice in your daily life. That makes you a Muslim. Your action makes you Muslims, not your hearsay. And I talk about hearsay, and I talk about people that talk a lot. What God says on them about the Quran. And these people talk a lot, but they talk a lot outside the Quran. Let's listen for more. That's part 3. Sorry, it's going to be, well, you're making me busy, man.
It's in the creation, outside the creation. But they use the verse in the Quran, which is that Allah khaliqu kull shay, that he created everything. And they say, well, look, that must mean he created the Quran, because the Quran is a shay. Obviously, Allah is a shay as well, according to the Quran. قُلْ أَيُّ شَيْءٍ أَكْبَرُ الشَّهَادَةِ قُلْ أَيُّ شَيْءٍ أَكْبَرُ الشَّهَادَةِ قُلِ اللَّهِ. You know, so obviously, if one wants to use that argument, it's pretty nullified. And we know that all of these, when
No, I have to stop you there. No. The verse doesn't mean God is talking about him as a thing. Yeah? It's not as a thing. He's not talking about himself as a thing. He's talking to the people. This speech to the people, right? To the people, right? Who's your biggest witness? What's the thing you consider the biggest witness? And then, why did you chop that verse? Because it didn't say Allah. Allahu Shaheed. You see what I'm saying? Allahu Shaheed. He didn't say because Allah is a thing. That's not what God said in that verse. Allahu Shaheedun bayni wa baynikum. That's what he says. That's what the verse says. Yeah, but you didn't finish it. You stopped it. Look, he stopped it there.
قُلْ أَيُّ شَيْءٍ أَكْبَرُ الشَّهَادَةِ قُلِ اللَّهِ.
Nah, see? That's not what it is though. قُلِ اللَّهِ. That means if you say here, you stop here. It's like saying وَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. That verse, you chop it there and you said it. So that means, those who pray are in trouble. That's what they do. He stopped it there. قُلِ اللَّهِ. That means Allah is shaykh. No. Carry the verse. Carry on. Read the rest of the verse so you understand the whole meaning of the verse. But that's what they do. They chop and they stick and they glue things and they come in, bring them there and there, and then they confuse people. And these people are listening to you. They're nodding. Yeah. So you're right. Without listening to the whole verse.
obviously, if one wants to use that argument, it's pretty nullified. And we know that all of these, when there are in the Quran, there are certain verses which is what is referred to as al-am urida bihi al-khusus, something which sounds like it's speaking in generalities, but actually what's intended is something which is specific. But we don't need to go into that detail.
Please don't. Just tell me how am I not Muslim, please. Go to the Quran. Stop preaching to the brainwashed. Speak to me. Just give me verses from the Quran, please.
We, as Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and I think pretty much everyone agrees, that the Quran is uncreated. Everyone knows that, Ahmad bin Hanbal went through a great trial in trying to prove this point. So this is the position. Having said this now, the question remains, so what is the evidence within the Quran that we should be looking outside of the Quran in order to seek guidance, or that there's any kind of revelation aside from the Quran that we can seek guidance from? So I'll leave you to speak to the person next to you for the next 5 minutes, and what I want is for you guys to try and find your top 3 verses which indicate.
See that now you're playing on my pitch. Now you see what I'm saying. Now you're playing on my pitch. That's between me and you, Quran, right? So there is verses in the Quran tells you to follow other people's speech, right? Other people guidance, other people. Yeah, there's verses. Yeah, let's wait and see, please, man. I can't wait.
Evidence that there is a Sunnah, A, and B, that it should be followed. Please do it. Okay, let's get started. Let's. What kind of things do people have? Well, if this kind of silence, if you confront Quran with this kind.
Exactly, because we really don't have anything, man. You're gonna make up shit, right? You're gonna lie, and to try and come up to shit. But let's wait. Let's wait.
Because we're gonna be in trouble, aren't we? Yeah.
It says, قل إن كنتم يحببكم الله فاتبعوني.
Yeah. قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله. If you love Allah, then follow me, and Allah will love you. And follow me, he's talking about the Prophet Muhammad. Right.
Okay. This is one evidence, right? اتبعوني يحببكم الله. Right. This here, the verse, does it say, follow my guidance, follow my speech, follow my sunnah, follow what? Did it say anything? But what do you mean? Did he say, is this evidence here? Follow me, Muhammad, when he was alive here, obviously, because he's talking to his people, his own people. Follow me, right? If you want God to love you, follow me, God will love you, basically. Follow who? Did they follow Muhammad? Did his people followed Muhammad before Revelations, or did they follow him? Did that people, Muhammad goes to people before he became a prophet and a messenger, and he goes to people, follow me? Is that what Muhammad done? No. He told them to follow him when he received the message. That means to follow the message here, not to follow him as a person, as Muhammad, as Muhammad, as a person, as a messenger. Follow the messenger, he's saying here, yeah? And he didn't say the guidance of Muhammad, he didn't say my speech, he didn't say anything. He said, look what he's done, right? That means you can't separate the two from each other. You can't separate God from his messenger, because they're one. They are one. Because the messenger, he's only the message. So when the messenger dies, we can't follow someone. I want to follow someone dead. Right? I want to follow someone dead. Like, you know what I'm saying? Bring back the Bukhari. I want to follow him. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. He's dead. How am I going to follow a dead person? And he didn't say my guidance. He didn't say nothing. Follow me, he said. As who? As a messenger with a message. So that's not evidence, is it? See, but he's saying, it is.
Yeah.
So the idea is what?
But the idea is very clear. So if you say that you love Allah, Allah does not look at you, so it doesn't regard your love for him unless you follow the Prophet ﷺ. So he's commanding you to follow his messenger.
Right, so it's conditional that in order to be loved by...
I'll give you a better example, yeah? Let's someone is searching for the truth, yeah? Right? and he wants his God to follow him, to love him. Can he speak to God? He can't speak to God, can he? Can he speak to God? I want my Creator to love me, but I have no contact with him. So how do I make God loves me if I don't have the message? So I have to have the message, and I have to follow that message. Forget about Mohammed here altogether. Forget about Mohammed. Forget about the prophets. All right? I need to have a message to follow, because I don't know how my Maker is going to love me unless I have instructions from him. And that's the message. That's not the prophet, not Muhammad as a prophet, as Muhammad as a messenger, because a messenger carries a message from God. So I have to follow the messenger so he can give me the guidance, give me the message, and then I read the message, and then I practice it for my Maker to love me. Simples. Simples. No evidence, nothing.
That you have to follow the messenger.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's there, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So that's very clear. So how would you argue this point against someone who does not believe in the Sunnah?
Well, the following the messenger is the Sunnah.
Right.
So how do you follow the messenger without the Sunnah?
Exactly.
All right. What you saying, Sunnah? Yeah? Sunnah. All right. So you follow with the Sunnah, you don't follow him with the Quran. You don't follow the messenger with the Quran, yeah? You follow him with his Sunnah. That means the Quran is here, has got no status here, the Quran. We have to follow the Sunnah. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they tell you to follow God, you follow God, you have to follow the Quran. Yeah, but how do I get the Quran? How do I get the Quran? If God didn't send a messenger. God can't just throw a book from the sky to me, is he? So you had to have a messenger as a human being who I can communicate with, so he can pass on the message. So it's nothing to do with Sunnah. Even I will come to the word Sunnah, because they lie to you big time. Everything is a lie, all right? The Hadith, they tell you they have to follow the Hadith, and the Hadith is the Sunnah, which is contradict. The word Hadith and Sunnah don't go together. Do you understand? Hadith is stories. A Sunnah is action. I'm saying it's action. So for me, literally, for me to follow the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, it has to be alive. Because the Sunnah is actions. It's not words. It's not stories. It's not Abu Hurairah. It's actions. So I have to see the Prophet actions for me to follow. Literally, Muhammad has to be alive for me to follow his Sunnah. But the Hadith is nothing to do with Sunnah. And I will explain in another video. So there's a lot of videos, trust me.
And that remains, right? How do we follow the messenger without Sunnah? I think it's a very good way to start us off.
Yeah.
Is there any
Very
other things that you've got here, guys?
Very good. So he agrees with him. That's it. So this lot think, oh, I've done really well now. I gave him a verse. So he must like me now, all right? He must think I'm a good Muslim now.
Like, Ma yuti Allah wa Rasulahu. So this is like in many places in the Quran. So clearly Allah clearly stating that you should obey the messenger.
Yeah, so أطيع الله وأطيع الرسول, for example, obey Allah.
It's in a lot of places.
ومن يطع الله والرسول فأولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. This is in Surah An-Nisa. So this is whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, then they are with the good people and the.
Then again, please answer me this question. How do you obey Allah? How do you obey the God without obeying the message that His messenger? How? How do I obey God? There's nothing, right? There's me and God. Well, I don't know. I don't see him. He sees me. I don't see him, right? But I want to obey God. Please, God, I want to obey you. But I don't know how. You know what I mean? So it has to have a messenger for me to receive the message, isn't it? So I can't obey God without obeying the messenger anyway. Tell me, please, explain it to me. Mohammed, hijab, the God, it takes people to heaven and hell. Explain to me, how can a person obey God without obeying a messenger? How? So if there's no messenger, how do I obey God? As I said before, God ain't going to throw a book at me, is he? So for me to obey God, I have to obey the messenger. Literally, the Prophet Muhammad himself obeyed Gabriel, didn't he? Because if he didn't obey Gabriel, he will not receive a message. Even a prophet, for him to obey God, he had to obey Gabriel. So why don't we follow Gabriel then? See, that Ati'u Allah wa Ati'u Rasul, and I'll come to these verses, trust me, I'm not going to leave it. I'm going to go back, I've got everywhere. Everywhere, I'm studying everywhere. Bring out all the verses, all right? All the verses. I'm going to bring them verses that Ati'u Allah wa Ati'u Rasul, obey Allah, obey the messenger, all of them. And I'm going to talk to you about them.
Martyrs and the righteous ones and so on. So clearly here there's an obligation to follow.
No, not clearly, no.
But the messenger.
Not to follow, first of all, not follow, obey. And then no clearly. There's no clearly here, all right? Anyone can hear me and you understand. There's no, you don't have any evidence. Absolutely no evidence.
I think also in Surah An-Nisa, there's like a few ayah, I think it's like 6 ayah,
Yeah.
which I think kind of cover this well. And also like they could, perhaps be talking about these Quran-only people. So like it mentions, oh, you believe, obey Allah and the Messenger and those in authority amongst you. And if you differ amongst anything amongst yourselves, then refer it to Allah and His Messenger. If you believe in Allah and in the last day, that is better for you and more suitable for the final determination. And then the next ayah is also very interesting because it mentions, have you seen those hypocrites who claim that they believe in that which has been sent down to you and that which was sent before you, and they wish to go for judgment to Taghut while they have been ordained to reject them, but Shaitan wishes to lead them far astray. And when it is said to them, come to Allah and come to what Allah has sent down and to the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will see the hypocrites turn away from you with aversion. How then when a catastrophe befalls them because of what their hands have sent forth, they come to you swearing by Allah, we meant no more than goodwill and conciliation. The hypocrites are those whom Allah knows what is in their hearts to turn aside from them, but do not punish them, but admonish them and speak to them in effective word, to believe in Allah and worship Him and obey Him, to reach their inner selves. We sent a messenger, but to be obeyed by Allah's permission. If they, the hypocrites, when they had been unjust unto themselves, had come to you and begged Allah's forgiveness, and the messenger had begged for forgiveness for them, indeed they would have found Allah most forgiving and most merciful. But no, by your Lord, they can have no faith until they make you, the Prophet ﷺ, a judge in all matters between them, and find in themselves no resistance against your decisions, and accept them with full submission.
A beautiful a range of ayat there. فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. The first one you mentioned, that if you differ upon something, then bring it
Mohamed
to
hijab, I've got a question for you, yeah? Why, in some verses, Allah said, أَطِيعُوا اللَّهِ وَأَطِيعُوا Rasul. Okay? In some verses, He says, أَطِيعُوا اللَّهِ وَرَسُولَهُ. Do you think these two are the same? Please reply to me if you can. Alright? In some verses, He said, obey Allah and obey the Messenger. And other verses says, obey Allah and the Messenger. See? There's no obey before the Prophet here together. Why do you think? Why is it a coincidence? Is it just language? Is it just put there for no reason? No excuse, nothing, just there? They look different. That means تغير المبنى تغير المعنى. That means the word is changed, the meaning has to change. Okay? But I'll come to that. I'll have a video about that. But I swear to you, he does not know. I promise
the
you.
messenger, and that we haven't sent a messenger إلا ليطاع بإذن الله, except that he will be obeyed by the permission of Allah. And ولا فلا وربك لا يؤمنون. This is actually the only place in the Quran where Allah swears by Himself. I don't know if you know this. This is the only place in the Quran, Surah An-Nisa, where Allah swears by Himself. It's فلا وربك لا يؤمنون. By your Lord, they don't believe. حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم, until they make you a judge between that which they are in dispute about. ثم لا يجدوا حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما. And then they don't find any disturbance or any kind of constraint for what you have judged, and they are in full submission to what you have judged. But the question remains, how can you even do that if the only obligation was to follow the Quran?
Wow. What do you mean? What do you mean? How can you do that? God tell you to be just. So Muhammad had to be just. Do you understand? If the argument was about the Quran, so Muhammad will give them verses from the Quran. What was the argument first? You see, he's saying, when people come to you to judge between them, okay? There's people to judge between them. He didn't say to judge the religion, to judge anywhere. Do you know what I'm saying? To judge about anything. He hasn't told you nothing. So when you judge, you have to be just. I just gave you the commandments here. So the Prophet had to practice the Quran on them. So you had to be just. It doesn't matter if he's friend or not. As I just said about in the commandment. So he judged them just. He was just with them. That's all. It didn't have to. What do you mean? So every judge now has to have a Quran in his book. I don't know. We don't actually. When I go to steal or something like that now and go to court, he's not gonna judge me with the Quran, is he? But as the judge follows the Quran and is just a person, he is a just person. Yeah, he's doing his job properly. So the judgment will be perfect, obviously, because he's not gonna create things from his head, is he? He's gonna follow the law. And that's exactly what the Prophet Muhammad does. Follow the law of the commandments to judge between them. He will not make up shit from his own head. And that means absolutely nothing what you're talking about. So how is that a proof? How is that a proof? How is that proof from the Quran? How is that proof that Prophet, in this verse I said, right, the straight path, you should follow it. And do not follow any other paths. This is talking to the Prophet Muhammad as well, you know. All these verses talking to the Prophet Muhammad as well. So Prophet Muhammad read this and practiced it. Do you know what I mean? He didn't come up from his own shit. Because he wasn't judging between people before the Quran, was he? He wasn't a judge before the Quran, was he? His status put him there to judge between people. His status as a prophet and a messenger. People trust him and come to him. But before, when he was Muhammad, people don't go to him for judgments. They don't. How's that proof?
You know, and maybe the response will be, well, when the Prophet was alive, you have to follow him as well. But the question will be, what in the Quran indicates that when the Prophet dies, that one should stop following him? Because if someone says, well, you know...
Stop saying the Prophet. Say the messenger, if you know what you're talking about. The messenger is the message itself. A book is a messenger. Not talking about the Prophet Muhammad dying. Prophet Muhammad is a human being. He dies. We don't follow a human being like you do. Like this lot are following you. We follow the message. And that's what you guys done. Forgot the message and followed the messenger. Follow the prophet, not even a messenger, because it doesn't go together. Because a messenger has to have a message, right? But you're not following the message the messenger brought. So you're following the prophet. You're following the prophet. You forgot about the message and the messenger, but you followed Muhammad, a prophet, a human being. That's what you've done. And that's why you all follow human beings. That's why you worship human beings. Because that's what they've done. You forgot about the messenger, and you forgot about the message and the messenger, and you followed the Prophet Muhammad. That's what you've done. That's why this verse is about him. Yeah, there's some verses when he was alive, and verses after his death. And once God says a messenger, he's not talking about the dead Muhammad the Prophet. He's talking about the Quran. And there's so many examples in here. But I will come to you. I will come to you with all the evidence. Although I gave you some, but I'm going to get all of them. Because all of them.
That was when he was alive. So then the question remains, how is it, or what indicates in the Quran that when the Prophet dies, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he should stop being followed? Any other verses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
وما أرسلنا من قبلك إلا رجالا نوحي إليهم فاسألوا أهل الذكر إن كنتم لا تعلمون.
A
So you
classic.
could even say this is applicable to like other.
Classic, but that's nothing to do with what he's talking anyway. But it's a classic verse they chop up and use. I spoke to you about it a couple of videos ago.
Like they don't know about, not just the Prophet. So just an indication that they should ask other people essentially.
Yeah, so in order to know, so guidance it extends outside of the Quran. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ comes twice in the Quran. One in Surah Al-Nahl and one in Surah Al-Anbiya. But there is a verse in Surah Al-Nahl which is very important on this matter. Does anyone know where it is? Talking about this matter in particular, about following the Sunnah. Shall I give you? I'll give you some moments to look for it.
No, just say it, please,
all of us.
man. He's talking about the Quranic here. He's talking about the Quranic. So talk to us, man.
Verse.
What is this verse? Come on, have it.
Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes to look for that. Because this is one of the key verses, actually.
Key verses,
So
yeah?
it's Surah Al-Nahl.
This is a key verse, yeah? All right, you heard that, yeah? All right, the other ones, obviously, they're not keys because he just said it. If you have a key verse, why are you bringing the other verses? So he's not convinced with the verses he just said. But this one should be bingo, yeah?
No. I've given you a hint. I told you this is Surah Al-Nahl.
Come on, this video is getting longer. People are going to get tired of this.
And this is the importance of having an awareness of the Quran. The importance, yeah.
He thinks he's got the awareness of the Quran, but he hasn't said anything right. Since he started, he hasn't said anything right from the Quran. Nothing.
And these are very important things.
Go on.
Which we will need to kind of be able to elaborate upon in dawah. Because this is a very key issue. You got it? Oh, you're looking at me. I thought you had something there. Yeah?
It's a bit unrelated here, right?
Okay.
Actually looking at,
Okay.
why do the Quranists believe that the role of the Prophet was it only to spread the...
You know why they do this? They test you. To make you feel small. To make you feel like you have no knowledge, you have no brain, you're not educated, you don't know nothing about your beliefs. That's why they test you. And to make themselves look... who tests who? It has to be a teacher, isn't it?
We're going to speak to Jake. You got it? Okay, perfect. One of the brothers who was a Qurani. He's going to tell us his experiences with them. I'm going to call him in about 5 minutes. Yeah.
It's verse 44. I've only got the translation in
That's
front
fine.
of me, so it says what translates as we sent them with clear proofs and divine books, and we have sent down to you the reminder so that you may explain to people what has been revealed for them, and perhaps they will reflect.
I'm sure he's going to say hikmah, right?
Okay, this is a very, 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 very
I
important
promise
verse.
you, yeah, wallahi, I didn't watch all this video, yeah? So I'm just doing it, and I'm not editing either, right? Yeah, that's why my speech sometimes, I get annoyed from it. I don't edit, I don't chop, I just listen to the video live.
Potentially the most important on this matter. Can you say it one more time, Jerry, please?
I'll have to open it back up. Give you
Yeah, well, who remembers the reference? Chapter 16, verse 44.
This is the verse after from the one I said.
So it says, we sent them with clear proofs and divine books, and we have sent down to you the reminder so that you may explain to people what has been revealed for them, and perhaps they will reflect. So
Okay.
here,
Yes.
authority is given to the Prophet ﷺ to do tafsir, basically, isn't it? So if his tafsir is outside of the Quran, then obviously we need something outside of the Quran.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I'll tell you something, guys, yeah? These are all fantastic and excellent and important.
You know what, if you watch my videos, I spoke about that verse, yeah? But it just gets too long because you keep bringing up the verses that makes no sense and don't really work with what they're trying to say, but they actually explain them how they want. So they actually explain them. Word bayana is nothing to do with clarifying or explaining, or it's to show them, to proclaim. That's what it is. It's not bayana. It's not. Do you know what I mean? It's not to explain. You know, that's why God says, ayah bayina, clear. Do you know what I'm saying? Something clear.
Say, and I'll tell you one thing, additionally, that people say, which any layperson can say. Any
Ayah bayina, that means something clear, doesn't need explanation. It's obvious, it's there, staring at you. So I mean, anyone can understand it. It does not need explanation. That's what ayah bayina is. Little bayina is to proclaim, to actually show it to the people. Do you understand? Not to explain it, to recite it, things like that. Nothing to explain, nothing. Nothing needs to be explained.
can say, okay, we have 5 pillars of Islam.
Yeah, that's what you think.
5 pillars of Islam, and all 5 pillars of Islam are mentioned in the Quran, correct? They have 6 pillars of Iman, which is the faith, and all 6 pillars of Iman are mentioned in the Quran, correct?
You made that up.
But the details on the 5 pillars of Islam, for example, if someone wants to pray, where are these details found? Are they found in the Quran?
Are they found in a hadith? Are they found in a hadith? They're not found in a hadith either. And if you think that's what salat is, and the salat is very important, yeah, the praying, yeah, if you believe, right, the praying is the first, well, second commandment, and it's very important, and right, that's it. If you don't pray like this, if you don't go up and down, you go into hell, right? And it's not in the Quran how to do it. Has the Quran becomes, how is the Quran? It's a full book. It's not. It can't be a full book because it's missing details. Do you know what I'm saying? Even if you go, let's say you go to the hadith and look for the prayer, I swear you got lost. You start thinking like, why are they different? Why if this one is saying this and this one is saying that? The wudu, to wash, people doing it differently. The praying and how to pray, the people doing it differently in the hadith. And you think, why even in something they call the most important thing, there isn't a hadith that tells you exactly like we're praying today. And I'm here, yeah? If I'm lying, go and find me a hadith that tells you the salat, describe the salat exactly like we're praying it today. And go in the hadith. If you don't find contradictions about praying, right, come, right, and come to me if I'm lying. You can call me a liar anytime you want, but just bring me the proof. Because I've done my research because I've been a Sunni all my life, man. And I'm over 40. You see what I'm saying? So, I have done my research. I was a Sunni and I've done my research and I read all the hadith, right? There isn't a way how to pray in the hadith. Actually, it is so confusing because everyone says something different. If the Prophet Mohamed prayed one way, why in your hadith you don't have that way? His way. If you think his way is your way, it must be in a hadith because it's important, the prayer. Because if it's not a Quran, in the Quran, and it's not in a hadith either. If you say in the Quran doesn't explain exactly, well, find me. Explain it to me in the hadith, please. And why others are saying things, why your clerics, your books are saying different things about praying? They contradict each other. A hadith that this contradict that, this contradict that, this contradict that. So people that didn't do any research, they'll shut you up. They'll call you stupid. They worship this guy. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want to move. They don't want to do anything. They just want to take their deen from people with beard, and they're happy about it. But this is part 3. I'll come to part 4.